Oh, peace, greetings, and a very, very warm welcome to everybody. This is Dr. Azeeza Jalaludeen, and we are extremely excited to have you in our this week's series of Global Peace. And together with us today, our special guest, all the way from US, it's a good evening for Madam Jennifer HOUGH. Welcome, dear.
Thank you, Dr. Azeeza. So happy to be here.
Yes, indeed. And we know Madam or Miss Jennifer as the amazing, amazing teacher on consciousness work. She is the president, international speaker, author, and a dear, dear, dear mentor in the wide awakening space. Thank you so much for the amazing, I cannot say enough in words, the kind of work that you do for the humanity, in the betterment of humanity. Thank you once again and welcome.
Oh, thank you. I'm humbled every day by the work that we have the privilege of doing. So sometimes I have to pinch myself and say, "Wow, is this really real?" And indeed, it is. So
Yes, yes, it is. So, in today's session, and as always we say in Go Global Business School, we launched this Global Peace series evolving over the last months from a miracle game, understanding. And today we're definitely going to play the miracle game. The most important element of this Global Peace series is to let individuals really realize their innate availability of peace when everybody is looking for it out there, somewhere out there, and they think it's over the rainbow, but really it is something that is innately available. And in through the work of the business leaders and mentors showing up on the Global Peace series, we are bringing into light what is possible for us when we are able to realize our true self and come into that space of inner clarity and power for magic to happen for ourselves, in our world, in our lives. And definitely today, Ms. Jennifer is going to rock the show with us with very, very powerful insights. So are we ready? So just before we start playing the game, as always, can we have you, Jennifer, just to share with us, what is your take on peace?
my take on peace is that I'm going to call it a state of neutrality. In other words, for me, peace is not being disentangled by or pulled is another great word by any circumstance, person, or judgment, or any kind of outside environmental influence that might be around one. So, peace is a state of being that exists when we almost are flowing between the atoms that form everything, in that space where we haven't yet landed or we're not really interested in the three-dimensional manifestations. We're interested in the possibility. And we can only find that space of pure possibility and creativity by stepping outside of the world at large and being able to understand that we're more multidimensional than we are three-dimensional. It reminds me of Dr. Azeeza, just reminds me of this idea where in our work, sometimes when we talk about worrying about the judgments of others, when people will judge all the time. However, when you just become yourself, when you just actually be yourself without allowing yourself to be pulled by the world outside of you, what happens is you're happy, and at least one of you is happy then, when you just transcend the need to be pulled by the rest of the world. And when we worry about the rest of the world, then we're worried again. So when we actually become ourselves and just allow ourselves to be as we are, at least one of us is happy. And
Well,
I think that's a beautiful
that
place of
sounds,
peace.
yes, I think that's a deal that many people strive for most of the
Mhm.
time, and we go through all these situations in life for that to arise, and that's the beauty of this whole conversation we're having today, to really, let ourselves be consumed with our inner self rather than the mind taking over all the game, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So, are you ready to play the game?
I absolutely am.
Okay, so this is the game that we are so excited about, and it's the Miracle Game, as I mentioned to you. It's a gamified ebook, and we have been playing this every week with guests in the room, in Facebook Live, with audiences. So it's been really fun, and this is not a tarot card reading, and it's not about telling you some fortune. It is really about seeing signs in the world and how we can really interpret it for our success, our clarity in life. So this is how we do it. We take a deep breath in and really anchoring ourselves. And we're not going to be talking about today's number that's going to come up is what we'll be discussing on, and it's going to be the purpose that we'll be serving for today. So are you ready to give me a number?
I am. Let's
Let's
see.
go. Between 1 to 100.
I don't I'm getting 63.
63 it is. Let's do it. Wow. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Let's do
So
it.
never,
Ready, Linda?
yeah, never ever stop sharing, sowing the seeds of love. Exude love energy can only give us love in return and in abundance. How true is that?
Well, that's one of the shortest. By the way, I have kind of channeled all these codes when I was going through these crazy moments in my life that came up with all this aha. Instead of complaining about life, I came up with these codes at the time of whatever that was going through.
Ah,
So it was kind of channeled through me.
yeah, yeah.
So
I
when
love
I'm
it.
reading this, it's as new to me as it is to you because I can't even remember what was
Oh,
it.
I know how that feels. That's beautiful. Really
And
beautiful.
and so today we are actually watching this. It's one of the shortest that we have. I mean, we have been having lots of it over the weeks. This is one of the shortest, but I feel that this is kind of like the most in thing. So tell me about it. What do you feel about the words, and what do you have to share about this?
Well, I think for me there are a few things to share about that because it's love. There's two aspects of it. One is it addresses a main law of physics, which is where we where we put attention, not so much, yes, our mind, our intention, and our attention, but consciousness, the universe, life doesn't, God really doesn't respond as powerfully as when we take action.
Yes.
However, it's the action powered by the love and the passion that causes it to have the energy that consciousness can feel. So, love is like the magic carpet on which our intentions and our visions ride. And the more love and passion that that magic carpet has, it's like a delivery system of our vision and our creativity. So it's a fundamental aspect of being able to live a life that we imagine is the passion and the love. The other piece of it, though, is that when we're focused in that direction, the passion and the love, we're
Mhm.
also keeping our attention off things like you said, how you actually manifested this beautiful game
Yes.
is then, and how you brought it through is that you decided that you weren't really you weren't interested in complaining anymore. You took your attention away from the complaining or, you know, being aggravated by the world as it is. You decided that you wanted to change something. So
Mhm.
so that passion and that love that got your attention and that took your vision became more important than the things that you were worried about or aggravated about. And when we do that, we're through our action. I mean, you did a whole exercise, a whole book about it. So consciousness clearly saw you doing that and thought, gosh, I really have a playmate here. So because consciousness is always looking at where you're putting your action and your it's your action. Intention, yes, but action is even more important because action says not only do I have an intention, but I'm really serious about this. So all of a sudden, if we can do that for more than some people would say 16 minutes at a time, I generally see it as about 11 days or so. After you have focused in one direction for about 11 days, consciousness knows that you're really serious. Physics responds in a way that it might temporarily respond if you only did it for an hour, but if you do it for 11 days, consciousness goes, oh, Dr. Azeeza is very serious about this. And all of a sudden it creates a new trajectory. And that trajectory becomes much more permanent. And I'm going to equate passion with love here. When you put passion into action, and you do it consistently, you really deliberately choose to ride that magic carpet ride, all of a sudden you've created a new direction and life starts to shift. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
When we talk about that,
Mm-hmm.
the clarity of the passion is something that many people struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the next level. I mean, we just were having this conversation about like it just gets evolving. So
Yeah.
at the same time, how clear is someone about their passion also has a lot of things to do with moving forward conversations, right? For
Yeah.
creating the results that we need.
Well, and I don't know if you've ever done this. I certainly did earlier in my life, where what we do is we get frozen because we don't have an idea or we have a very small idea of our passion or it's a little bit overwhelming to think about. And so what we do is we wait instead of actually taking a little bit of action. As I said before, one of the most important things you can do for consciousness to respond to you is like I read something today. Let's see if I can get it right. It sounded something like this, that I always say you're not in a wrestling match with the universe. You're in a dance. And in
Yes.
a dance, you take a step and it takes a step, but you have to take a step for it to respond.
That's right.
Right. And so, yeah, it's important to not be so concerned about getting it right. I know you know about that. Not be so concerned about making it look pretty or getting it right. It's more important to actually move the energy so that your dance partner can respond to the energy you just moved. And
Mhm.
then you get clarity in the process, right? You get clarity in the process that unfolds in front of you, and your passion will just become clearer and clearer instead of being frozen by perfectionism.
Yeah.
And
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 that's the biggest struggle most people have. And
mhm.
I think much would have kind of settled this year as like whatever, like appearing in front of the camera. I mean, like
Uh-huh.
sometimes even like I'm going to give a very practical example, like ironing your clothes. Those days when you step out of the house, you need to have like a crisp look. But
Yeah.
now you're in front of Zoom and it doesn't look so crumpled. So I think I'll just get away.
That's so funny. Well, yeah, it's like, are you gonna let crumpled clothes be the reason why you don't get on Zoom and speak your passion?
Yeah. So, and it's not too obvious. So you kind of, I would say that you relaxing your rules instead of the
Yeah.
perfection that you say, oh, not even a crease on my blouse, I better iron it off because I'm
Yeah.
going for this meeting. But, there's certain part of us and whatever that has happened in the world kind of like relaxed everybody's
Uh-huh.
perfectionism and really got people. What do you have? I mean, I think I relate to that conversation a lot, like on a personal space. Tell me about your take on this.
Well, I found, I've been missing my parents this year because they're in Canada and I'm in the United States.
Mhm.
And for me, um, I could be very, very frustrated that I can't see them physically, or even if I did see them, maybe I wouldn't give them a hug given all the news. And so it's almost like, okay, Zoom isn't perfect, but as a result of doing Zoom, I'm teaching my parents something new about technology, which is really fun because they're 80 years old. And I have such a hoot. I should write diaries about teaching my mother how to use technology. I've never laughed so hard in my life. But the things that you learn about them, and because we were getting to know each other this way, and I'm actually talking to them more than I
Yes.
normally do. So, when we move energy in a direction, we don't know what the results are going to be. And that's half the fun in the dance. It's like you're inventing a whole new dance.
Yes.
So it's okay not, I mean, my mom's a perfect example because she has no idea how to use technology. And she's being a courageous little technology warrior. And
Wow.
she's just adorable. She's just funny. I really should write a book about it because it's like a comedy skit to teach her how to use these things. So, yeah.
And it's surely this conversation on being paralyzed to take action has been a
Mhm.
situation where people struggle at different times, and
Yep.
just whatever that has happened right now,
Yep.
and right now in general in life, why do you think people struggle to take action?
Because there is so much judgment out there. We've become this odd culture of making getting it right more important than actually being in connection. And I think that's part of the imbalance of going too far to I'm going to say a more masculine world where getting it right and that competitive nature is really important. And in the feminine world, it's more about the connection, regardless, like my mother and I on technology, completely not getting it right. And that connection being important. And yes, it is important to have a degree of professionalism and all of those things. But is it more important than making the connection? You see? And so when we come together in the masculine and the feminine, what happens is you realize that um, getting it right does not, or being, as I said earlier, it's like, do you really care if you're judged that much, so much so that you wouldn't connect with humanity?
Yeah.
When people are going to judge you regardless. So at least if you be yourself, one of you is happy. So I think that's a big reason why people don't take action. They're afraid of being judged or not getting it right or
Mhm.
messing up or and I think the other reason that people don't take action, it's funny, right? I'm sure you and I have both said this, that people say I'm afraid of failing. But at the same time, there are so many people that are actually afraid of the responsibility they perceive comes from succeeding. Like, oh my gosh, if I succeed, then I have to keep carrying that. And but these are just these are the personalities explanations of why not. In the end, if we actually look at action as a form of creation, and we're just creators in a big
Yeah,
sandbox called planet Earth, then we're just here to create upon creation, right?
that's
And
right.
then instead of getting it right, we're just creating. And I will finally say, which is probably the most crucial point, that if we're made in the image of creation, if we're, let's say, fingers of the hand of creation, isn't it interesting to consider that in order to create, by definition, nothing was meant to be perfect? Because if you're always creating upon what was, that
Hmm.
means that what was couldn't have been perfect to begin with. It was just good good raw material for what you're going to create next. Good inspiration.
That's
So when
right.
we let go of the idea that anything could be perfect in the first place, by definition, if we're creators, it's never perfect. It's just there to be created upon. So it's just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah. So at this juncture, as we like kind of have this conversation, what do you think can move someone? I mean, we're talking about judgments and that
Hmm.
goes on. I mean, that's a huge topic to talk
Yeah,
about.
sure.
What can inspire someone to go into action, or what can we support in getting ourselves out of our way, especially when it comes to this conversation about the success and the responsibilities that come with it. You know, it's we always know it's not the fear of failure, but the fear of success that kind of paralyzes many people. So
Well,
how does it work?
I think you might be surprised by my answer.
Okay.
I think that it's so there are a couple of things. One is what I do at night and what I do in the one an exercise that I do every night before I go to bed. And it presupposes that I am about 99.139% multidimensional. In
Mm-hmm.
other words, I'm less three-dimensional than I am uh, other dimensional. So the space between the atoms occupies more than the actual atoms themselves. And so if that's true, and that's true of every being, and in fact everything, um, that means that consciousness is more available to me than my actual three-dimensional self. So getting out of the way, as you so aptly put, is the most getting out of the way of the entire of those metaphysical particles that are co-conspiring in the dance with me is probably the most important thing I can do, recognizing that we're in a dance together and that I'm not alone. So if I'm not alone, then the action all of a sudden becomes so much more easy. If I have metaphysical particles that are omnipotent and omnipresent and omniscient in in the world, if I'm giving off photon packages of light that travel around the earth 7 times in a second, communicating my desires out into consciousness, that goodness sakes, of course I'd be scared if I was just doing it on my own as a three-dimensional person. But now that I realize that I have 75 trillion cells giving off photon packages of light into consciousness, which is responding, my gosh, now it's just like, what can I do? So that for me was a massive paradigm shift, being able to have that awareness. So every night before I go to bed, I say, you know, greater wisdom, higher levels, God, whatever you want to call it, take command. My while I sleep, I'm yours. You just work your magic. And I say, I declare my day complete. This day is complete. It's all you. I'm going to sleep now. I'm going to get out of the way. And when I wake up, I'm going to ask you the question, show me. So when I get up in the morning, before I do anything, not even brush my teeth, I lie in bed and I ask. I close my eyes and I bring my consciousness behind my pineal gland, behind my third eye, and I ask, what do you have to show me? And I just let myself be shown. I just open myself up to the chatter that happens from, and maybe I put myself into a state of appreciation and gratitude first, just to be in the vibration of the answers that I want to hear. And then I just look for answers that drop in, look for pictures that drop in, no matter how silly or crazy, and I write them down. And that's how I finish my day and my start every morning, so that I'm always taking inspired action on that magic carpet ride of love.
Wow, if you're watching this video, my friends, and those who are going to watch the recording, I'm telling you, this is the moment. I can really feel the heart expanding for myself. I'm like, oh my God, that is so powerful. We're talking about really surrendering and getting the work done
Hmm.
and really allowing life to take over or the universe to take over, the great spirit to take
Absolutely.
over. I think that's so powerful. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
No,
yeah.
thank you. Well, we're consciousness's dream. God, creation, all that is, thought we were a good idea. So who am I to argue with that, right? And who am I to argue with that about you? That's the same way I relate to everybody is everyone I meet was creation's good idea, goodness. Can't wait to discover who they are. So that's how I approach people during my day. But at the end of the day, I make sure I get out of the way of all of it. And in the morning, I get into that vibrational place where I can receive the answers that would have my life be, my actions be consistent with a more fluid, courageous, and creative life where I get to be in love with my life, right?
Wow, you know what you just did? We started off the session by talking about judging with the kind of judgments we
Mhm.
have on ourselves.
Right.
And right now, you have just expanded that to say that now I surrender.
Yeah.
And now, in order for global peace to be in existence, let's drop all judgments about everybody
Yeah.
as we do on ourselves. And that is really the conclusion conversation we're going to be having, because what the Miracle Game number showed up as exuding love and having love in return only when we are able to go into that space of non-judgmental.
Yeah.
I think that is really wonderful.
Yeah, I think it truly is. We're each microcosms of the greater macrocosm of civilization. So if each one of us was to do that, imagine the shifts in the world,
That's right.
that would happen. It's entirely possible. And yeah, yeah,
I,
it's a powerful force.
the main thing that we are having, as we conclude the session, is
Yeah.
how we can drop judgments about everybody else as much as we judge ourselves.
Hmm.
That would kind of like drop all guards and
Right.
create that synergy among people. I mean, that is where the direction will be supported.
Uh, well, it's a direction of the entirety of consciousness. Consciousness is built in the fabric of love. So if we become more consistent with the same flow that consciousness rides on, we're in the same river with life,
That's
then
right.
all of a sudden everything does become possible. It's so energizing. I mean, I think it was such a perfect number to pick today.
Yes,
So thank you for
absolutely.
the game.
Thank you. And I think this is really a wonderful space. And this is the final session of the year. I'm
Ooh.
so glad that we are doing this, because when we step into next year, it's a whole new brand conversation we'll be having. And I'm so glad, Jennifer, you said yes to this
Hmm.
session with us, because we had four beautiful sessions. One with the Art of Living Master, one of the directors there, Mr. Kashiji, and then we had one with Dr. Amir Farid from Malaysia. And then
Beautiful.
last week, which was really a manifestation, with Mr. Owen from Singapore. So
Beautiful.
now you are here. So that's like a perfect, diversity in the space
Mhm.
that everybody have shown up. And really, it is, I want to thank you for completing the year with us in the most empowering way, because it is kind of, for me, an affirmation that when you say yes, it's like an affirmation for me that the universe is showing us we are on the right track. So thank you.
Oh, it is my pleasure. Isn't it appropriate in the year of 2020? Think of 2020 vision, that's what we get to see at the end of this year in the year of 2020. So
That's right.
good.
So that's what it is, friends. Thank you so much for this wonderful time we have spent this whole year, and with Jennifer today, this whole completion we are having. It's focused on global peace through
Mm.
global clarity, and the inner peace that you can achieve. So that is the best way we can all support humanity and mankind right now. You don't have to go out there and prove anything right this moment. Just breathe in the next 1 week of time with yourself and really creating or realizing your true self in that space.
Sounds
That's right.
beautiful. Thank you for having me, Dr. Aziza.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So, wishing everybody a blessed year ahead. And we're going to complete the session today. And thank you very much for joining us. Remember to share this video with everyone, because there is someone out there that is seeking to hear this so that they feel complete and whole for themselves in their life as well, right? Thank you so much once again. Namaste. And this is Azeeza, Go Global Business School. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Azeeza. That was wonderful.